welcome back to Mom's Got a Podcast. I'm Laurie Houde, and I'm in the middle of a series called D.I.S.C-Informed Parenting and D.I.S.C-Informed Leadership. And what I want to share with you is some of the things we learned as parents on how to better relate to our children based on the D.I.S.C testing. And I usually say Christian D.I.S.C test. And I also always, let me put my glasses on. I always reference this amazing book by Hettie Brittz. It's called Growing Kids with Character, Nurturing Your Child's Potential, Purpose, and Passion. And I want to share with you how this book changed our lives and how I hope that you can get a hold of her and her ministry. I'll put the link to the book in my show notes, and hopefully you can get a hold of these principles. But ultimately, in the Christian D.I.S.C test, I am an I and a D, which means I'm a palm tree and a rose bush. And I am direct, I'm dominant, I'm loud and fun, and come to find out that creates some really great parts of being a mom, and then it also could cause some heartache in my kids. And so one of the things that changed my life is when I got a hold of this book for the first time. My daughter Jada was a boxwood and a pine tree. So we called her a box pine all the time, which means in the Christian D.I.S.C test, Jada is a boxwood, and that is a C, and a pine tree, which is a S. So Jada is introverted and she's concise, and I am not concise at all. So when I would do things fast and flippant and quick, it was hard on her heart. And I would ask her questions and grill her, and she would withdraw. And the Holy Spirit convicted me that I was parenting in a way that came natural to me, and I needed to allow the Lord to challenge and grow me to learn some new parenting styles. So this book impacted and changed my parenting style forever. And I believe that when you understand who you are, how God designed you, and if you have a weakness, let's say that you are an extremely concise parent, and maybe you're a direct parent, which means you would be a CD in the D.I.S.C testing. If you are a CD, then you are really driven. You are very concise. You might be a perfectionist. And you know what that does sometimes to your children? One, it could make them go, my parents believe in me and they expect me to be the best. Or it could also make your child shut down a little bit. So if you have the CD personality strengths and weaknesses, and you want to best win the heart of your children, you'll have to say, Lord, help me see where they're doing things good. I have a whole teaching in season 1 of my Parenting on Purpose, Mom's Got a Podcast. Go find season 1. While you're at it, you know what? Right now, why don't you like and subscribe to my podcast, to this YouTube channel? Help me spread these messages. But on season 1, I talk about how important it is for us to build that bridge between the hearts of our children. We want to capture their hearts. We want them to feel safe and seen and known, and not to always feel like we're catching them being naughty. So I did an entire podcast on catch your children being good. I also wrote a children's book called Micah's Best Day, and the whole principle about it is teaching them to honor, serve, obey. And then when they do, you catch them being good at that, and you reward godly behavior and good character. Well, what happens if you are a C, D parent, mom or dad? You're naturally critical because you have a critical mind. That's not bad. Critical thinkers make for very great architects, very great leaders. If you're direct and dominant, that means you're able to drive your whole family and your business where you're called to go. And I'm just saying that sometimes that could make your child feel like they're not doing good enough, and they might shrink back. So what you want to do is say, Lord, help me see my child doing things good. Catch them being good. Catch them honoring God. Train them and disciple them to be able to do those things. Also, if you are an S in the D.I.S.C testing, that means that you are a pine tree in the other book. You might have a lot of pine trees in your home. They're easygoing, no trouble. But sometimes the good child, the child that is easygoing, doesn't cause a ruckus, a little bit quieter. Maybe they have some boxwood in them. They follow the rules. Sometimes parents, we overlook them and we don't see that they have needs and we're unaware. And that's what happened with me. My daughter Jada is a box pine, which is a combination of the C, which is boxwood, and pine, which is S in the D.I.S.C testing. So the pine tree, boxwood together, box pine. And what I found out is I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was making her tick. And it's because she wasn't as outgoing. So you know what we did as a family? We realized we should never let that child have her bedroom downstairs. That was my D.I.S.C informed parenting. Why? Because if my box pine tree, who is just fine reading a book and not being with people and is very rule following, she'll just be down in her bedroom the rest of her life and I'll never see her. And I wanted connection with that one. So then I have a palm tree child. Tessa's more of a palm tree. And one thing she said to me recently, she said, Mom, I know I'm a palm tree, but I'm not only a palm tree. And I'm sad that I'm usually labeled as just really outgoing and really fun. She goes, you know what? I serve too. And I'm a great listener. And I'm driven. I'm self-motivated. And I was like, you know what, Tessa? As your mom, I'm sorry. I was seeing you only through the lens of your dominant personality trait. And I had failed as a parent and a leader in her life to see how she had developed the other things in her life. So parents and leaders, I would love for you to say, Lord, help me learn from things like the D.I.S.C testing. Help me understand people better. Help me want to lead with love and grace and intuition. But also help me to be aware that people are changing and growing. So if you love the D.I.S.C testing like I do, and you're drawn to like, go, wow, I'm a driven, dominant person, and I'm just going to be that the rest of my life, I would say that's not the point of these tests. The point of these tests is that you go, wow, I should ask God to develop where I'm weak in these areas so that I can soften my tone, so I can become a better listener, so that I can grow in this ability to relate to my children and my coworkers and friends. So ultimately, my hope, if you are parenting still any children in your home, even high schoolers, all the way down, I highly recommend this book. Get this book and read it all the way through. One more story from my family. We had read this book years ago, and then we reread it probably twice because I lead a women's Bible study and I teach on parenting. And if you really do want to know my parenting principles, please go to season 1 of Mom's Got a Podcast and go listen to all of those. I mean it. I believe they will transform your parenting because of God, not because of me. But we were reading this book again when I was leading some other women in our parenting study. And I needed to read some chapters, and we were on a road trip, and I had Tessa and Jada in the car, and they're grown women at the time. And I'm reading the very back of the book, and it tells you how to relate to your child that has Tessa's personality. And I look in the back seat, again, she's a grown woman in her 20s, and I see tears rolling down her face. And I said, hey, are you all right? I mean, she's not prone to cry on a road trip. She's like, usually like, whoa. And she goes, I feel more understood than I have in a really long time. And I thought, that's important. So if you're a leader, you're a pastor, you're a mentor, you're a dad, you're a mom, I think you should desire to know your people. Get to know what makes them come alive and what makes them flourish and tick. And do your best to develop that in them and love them and champion them. Also, when we first did this, my son was very young. And there's this little test you can do in here, basically like a D.I.S.C test for kids. Also, you change. Maybe your child was a lot of an S as a little child and they grew more into a C. Well, that's great. They just needed to grow and be more concise. They needed to learn some skills. So there is changing within the D.I.S.C test and within the trees because we should be growing. We should say, God, grow us and change us. But my son, Micah, and I love that you're able to keep up because I am in the D.I.S.C testing, which means I tend to jump around in my conversations. So my son, Micah, when we first did this, He was probably 11, maybe younger, maybe 10. And he did this test, and you can print it out, and it'll tell you what they're good at, what they will probably need more help in, and how to develop their godly character. Because the whole point of this book is nurturing your child's potential, purpose, and passion. Are you kidding me? That's called Raising History Makers and World Changers. That's the whole point of my podcast. That's the whole point of most everything that I do, is to disciple men and women alike to parent on purpose, so that their children end up being like so on fire for Jesus and doing what they're called to do. So anyways, she's talking about all of that in this book. And then my son's reading the printout, and he's reading it out loud in a very similar reaction to Tessa, 10 years later. And I looked at Micah and I go, "What's going on, bud?" And he goes, "This actually sounds exactly like me." And I go, "Really? What does that mean to you?" He goes, "Actually, that is how I feel. And that is how I think." And I thought, he needed me to know him. He needed me to understand him better. And if I can pass on to the people in my life, first of all, my passion for God and his word, that matters most. I want you to love God. Then go home and love your family, okay? Go home and love your family. That matters. That is kingdom work. That is changing the world, one dinner at a time, one tucking them in at night at a time, one giving them snacks after school and praying for them as they walk out the door. And as you go to work and you pray over your family, come on, go home and love your family and do it according to God's principles. And the next thing I would say is ask the Lord to develop your strengths and develop your children's strengths, and ask him to help you see who they were designed to be and who you were designed to be. And I believe the DISC testing through this book and the Christian DISC testing will help you be the best employee or boss or friend or neighbor or daughter or anybody. You get it. I'm going to end this podcast. I didn't really teach you as much as I feel like you will need to learn this by understanding it and getting books and other videos on the Christian DISC testing. But I hope that you make it a priority in your life to develop this in you. God bless. Push that subscribe button for more.